Welcome to Kingdomize the podcast, where we discuss how to see our lives and our world through a kingdom lens, how to infuse kingdom culture into our families, our workplaces, and our cities, as we all participate in the dream of Jesus to see his kingdom on earth as it is in heaven. Welcome back to Kingdomize the podcast. We are about to start a new series. We just finished a series on just Kingdomize It, which is great. And for you kids that have been following along, we're turning that into a book. You asked for it, you've got it. That's coming. We'll be releasing that in June. So don't miss it. June, we're releasing the book, Just Kingdomize It. So we're moving on to a new series. Ian Green, what do you think about this? And we're calling this Kingdomize Your ... We want to kingdomize everything. What do you think about that?
This is the passion for our lives. We are wanting to kingdomize everything. We're not out to improve people. We're not out to improve society. We're not out to improve business. We want to kingdomize everything we can lay our hands upon.
And we're big. We have big hands. So that's...
We have big hands.
So that's it. And so when we were playing around with this, Ian, I was going back to the cottage we went to like a couple of years ago. How we actually came up with the name, because it was funny. We had this name, and we've told the story before, but I thought as we go into this, it'd be important. We had this name, the Global Collective. What was it? The Global Transformation Collective, GTC. Right. We were the Global Transformation Collective, which I thought I didn't mind that. And then we had a gentleman join us for the weekend, which is an amazing guy, Drew Brown from the States. He says, sounds a little bit Star Trek-y. And I said, that's amazing. But everyone else didn't feel that it was amazing. And as we chatted through that week, through the days, we kept talking. We just kept throwing out this word, kingdomize. Yeah. And I remember saying, that would make a great podcast name. And from there, and I don't know who said it, maybe it was you, Ian, somebody said, that would make a great name.
Yeah.
And that's how we became Kingdomize Global. That was it. And so like you said, it's like, we're not looking to just improve the world. We're like, we want the entire world to get the kingdom. Sounds like what Jesus said, I think, actually.
Isn't that ridiculously near to what he said? No, it's absolutely what he said. That he says, your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And in reality, Brian, we're just trying to follow in the footsteps of Jesus, doing what he told us to do, being who we should be. And kingdomization is the goal. That's the plan. That's the trajectory that we're on. But it's the same trajectory as Jesus. So I'm really happy about that.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like whenever people look at you, Ian, they know you're just like Jesus. But the other guys on Kingdomize, we needed some help. So we had to keep reminding ourselves. And so that week, actually, we came up with some definitions of what it meant to kingdomize.
Yeah.
And so we talked about it's the ongoing process for people and organizations and communities that we can expect success and prosperity. That's a good one. We said it was that all areas of society gets transformed. That's a good thing. And then we threw out this thing. We haven't talked about this one much, but we talked about the idea of connecting a heavenly mind, so spiritual ideas, with some earthly good. So tangible, holistic, practical ways that the kingdom comes. So that's what we said kingdomization was, and that's what we've been using now for like a couple of years, right?
Yep, for sure. No, for sure. And as I chat to people globally, they love the name. I hope you listening to the podcast, you love the name too, because we absolutely love the name too. And so it's so descriptive of what we're about, who we are, what's in our heart, what's in our mouth, what's in our hands. We want to kingdomize everything.
Yeah. Kingdomize everything. And so that's where we're going over the next number of weeks. We don't know how long this is. As I said, we're calling this series Kingdomize Your ... And so that could be Kingdomize Your Life, Kingdomize Your Leadership, Kingdomize your city, kingdomize your marriage, kingdomize your business. We actually have a course that we run over and over again called Kingdomize Your Business, and we've helped many business leaders to do that, to actually get kingdom ideas, to understand their kingdom calling and move on. And so we're taking the outline. So when we wrote that course, Ian, we had 3 areas that we felt were important to business people, and then we thought, no, this is important to any Christian. Christians should understand their calling. They should understand what the life looks like, and then that should affect their city. So we're going to talk today as an outline, as a starter, about those 3 areas. It will be the overarching banner to every time we talk, that there's a understanding of kingdom calling, kingdom lifestyle, and kingdom impact to your city. So that's where we're heading today. So let's jump in. Kingdom callings. What do you see as a really significant part of understanding a kingdom calling, Ian?
I think the lights went on for me, Brian, when I understood there was no secular and sacred calling. Because I was kind of brought up in an era where the top job was the pastor. And it was a shame that everybody else had a lesser job. Even if you wanted a better job, you couldn't get a better job because the top job was the pastor, right?
So that was a sacred calling. Right?
That was the sacred calling, and that was probably the only calling.
Well, maybe missionaries.
Oh, yeah, true. Missionaries.
Pastors and missionaries were sacred.
They were sacred, but as I've kind of grown in my faith and grown in my understanding, and particularly biblical understanding, there is no such thing as there's no divide. There's absolutely no divide between sacred and secular. It is one calling. It's calling, and you may be called to be a bricklayer. You may be called to be a doctor. You may be called to be a nurse. You may have a great sense of calling to be at home with your children, and that is as sacred as the pastor's calling, right? And so when the lights went on for me for that changed everything. That absolutely changed everything. So how I viewed people from then on in was quite different, because I was brought up in a denomination. I went to the Bible college. So you end up with a genre, with a picture, with a mindset that, these are good, these are not so good, these are great, these are not so great. And that wiped that slate absolutely clean for me, in terms of there is a calling, and what God is calling you to do is absolutely sacred.
Ian, I don't think I've ever told you this story. Maybe I did. I don't think I've ever done that. But I actually have a message that I preached that I could have been a wrestler. Have I ever told you about my potential of becoming a professional wrestler? So
no.
So my dad was really good friends with a very popular wrestler here in Canada back in the 50s and 60s. His name was Whipper Billy Watson. He was a very famous wrestler. My dad was his mechanic. And he came to my dad several times and said, Roy, you need to get on the road with me. You could be a great wrestler. We could be a tag team. I mean, it was the whole story. And the thing was that had my dad become a wrestler, I mean, me and my brothers, we're pretty big guys. There's no reason to think that wouldn't have become the family business. So I could have been a wrestler. And I want to say, in this context, had I grown up in that and God said go to do it, I would say that could have become a sacred calling. God needs, I mean, I don't know how yet, but God needs people everywhere, right? And what makes something sacred is not that there's a good story to it or whatever. What makes it sacred is that God said, you should do that. This is how I've wired you. This is what you should do. And so the sacredness comes from Jesus saying it more than us just saying, or us saying in religious ways, that pastor's got a good calling in. And if Bruce Mann was here, he would say, and he always reminds us, it's not like we're bringing some of those gifts down, like pastors, missionaries. We actually want to bring all the callings up to an understanding of sacredness, right?
No, absolutely. I mean, I remember one time when I was speaking in Australia, a city called Adelaide, and when I was there, this revelation had come to me, and I started to preach it everywhere I went in terms of one calling, and so of course it becomes very liberating for anybody who's not a pastor. So that's like 99% of the people, right?
Yeah.
So it's a really good message. And so at the end of the service, this guy comes to me, probably in his late 20s, and he says, "Oh, Ian, what you said tonight was really, really helpful." I said, "How was that?" He says, "Well," he says, I didn't come to Jesus till I was 22, and it was quite a dramatic conversion. And of course, I'm a part of the family business, and we have a very successful family business here in Adelaide, and it's been a generational business, and so there's all the expectations that eventually I would probably be one of the people to take over and to lead it, right? Not yet, but in the future. So okay, yeah. It says, but when I came to church, I smelt this, I picked it up. I don't know how I did, but I began to understand the really important people and the really important jobs was to be either a pastor or to be a missionary. And so when that kind of settled with me, I thought, man, I don't think I can pastor churches. I don't like people, so I don't think that's going to work for me. Maybe I should be a missionary. And so I spoke to the church pastor and wherever, and they agreed. They agreed to help to sponsor me to go to the Philippines to be a missionary. They already had some outreaches there. Maybe I could solidify what they were doing. It would be fantastic. And so I packed my bags, off I went, and I was very diligent, very passionate. And while I'm there for about 3 years, and I lead nobody to Jesus. I says, that's not possible. You can't go to the Philippines and lead nobody to Jesus. Like people are always leading people to Jesus. There's always some crusade. There's always some outreach. There's always something fantastic happening. There's always people coming to Jesus. He said, I led no one to Jesus. He says, what I did do, though, I started 3 great businesses, which are phenomenally profitable and successful. I says, oh my gosh. So I understand now why the message tonight meant something to you. Your calling is not to be a missionary. Your calling is not to be a pastor. Your calling is actually in the entrepreneurial space, and you are called to be a businessman. Well done. Well done. I'm so pleased you shared that story with me. I'm so pleased that you've actually got some affirmation of who God has made you, and that is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And we would say as well, and we have in many of our podcasts and writings, is that it's not just pastors and missionaries, and it's not just calling to business, but we would affirm if you're called to business, education, government, the arts, media, some people call it 7 mountains, spheres, domains. We don't care. It's just an understanding that any of these calls, if Jesus calls you to it, makes it sacred. We want to come alongside you and help you do that. So that's really good. So we've got a calling, and then there's a lifestyle that comes with it. So we've got the calling. We want to affirm that. Let's go on to our second point about living a life. So it's not just a matter of okay, now I'm gonna go and do this. God, thanks for that. I'll see you in heaven. I'm gonna go do my thing. But there's actually some expectations on our life, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think where most of us have probably come from in terms of we have to move from the theological to the practical, right? And so, we can, and the challenge that we often have, in the Western world is because we have information, we think we have obedience, right? But we actually only have information.
Oh, say that again for the people at the back. Say that again.
So the challenge that we have in the Western world is because we have information, we think we have obedience, but actually we've only got information. So, I mean, even Jesus teach them to do everything I've commanded you. So So there's some action, there's some outworking of the kingdomization of Christ coming into our lives, becoming boss, becoming Lord over our lives. He has an expectation that we will live differently, not from a purely moralistic view, but actually from internal energy, because the Bible says we have participated in a new nature, and now we have the divine nature of God within us. We have something inside of us that we didn't have when we were born naturally. Now, being a participator in the kingdom, we have a divine nature. So sometimes we talked about, when our old nature has a bias towards doing right, but on the new nature has a bias towards doing right. And now we have a totally transformed inner world, and it's out of that's the engine for our lifestyle.
Buddy, love that. I love that. I just want to sit back and listen to you talk. It's good. So there's a lifestyle that comes with this, and one of the things that I encourage people to understand, and so there's a verse that people overlook a lot out of 1 Corinthians 11, and it starts the chapter and it says, Paul says this, follow me as I follow Christ. I don't know many people that have taken that as their favorite verse. I actually think leaders should do that. I think leaders should say, I'm going to live such a life that if people followed me, they would have a good Christian life. We grew up as a family. In the summer, we'd go camping together. In the winter, we'd go snowmobiling together. In Canada, back in the day, it was like snow was everywhere. So we had 3 different snowmobiles. The whole family would go out. We'd go, and my oldest brother, he had his own snowmobile, and he considered himself a bit of an artist. He drew everywhere. Actually, he actually was a good artist. But he drew all over his snowmobile, and on the back of his snowmobile, he wrote this: "Don't follow me, I'm lost too." Don't follow me, I'm lost too. I think sometimes that's how Christians act. It's like, no. You just work it out yourself. You just follow. But that's not really what discipleship is. It's actually intentionally bringing people with you. And so this idea of a lifestyle, that it's actually, there's an obligation to live a courageous life worth following. There's an obligation on top of the Christian. So, and I know people hate that word obligation. That's why I choose to use it. I think if God puts his life into you, I think there's an expectation on payback, right? An obligation on payback. So I think that's really important. So lifestyle is really important, no matter what the calling is, right?
Absolutely, for sure, Brian. And I think particularly with all the social media forums, right? People are great at expressing views and whatever. I think what the world needs and what our planet needs is people who are not talking the talk, but they're walking the talk.
Yeah.
And it's somehow we have to bridge that gap of being intellectually astute with what we think the Bible teaches, and saying, okay, how does that work for you? How does that work for you in your life? How's that going for you? Because kingdom lifestyle is the litmus test. Jesus says, they will know that you are my disciples because you have love one for another. So that's not marginal. That's not okay, I can take it all. No. That's absolutely integral to who we are as believers and as Christians, that we actually love one another. It's allowing that new nature, which has the love of Christ, to overtake everything else that would oppose that flow of God's life that is in us, to actually people can experience, they can actually taste and see that the Lord is good, and it's coming out of our lives. Yeah,
really good. I agree with you. That has to be. It has to be more than just talk. I would think minimally, if we looked at the world and saw that they hate that we just talk about it and don't do it, that should be enough. But if Jesus' words didn't inspire us enough, that it was more than just talk. we should know that the world's looking at us going, yeah, all that stuff you're talking about doesn't mean much to you if you're not doing it, right? So really important.
Yeah.
And I do want to add one piece to this, because I do think it's important under lifestyle. And by the way, on the way by here, while you're listening, Ian has done a whole series of 10 points on this under lifestyle. So we've got, if you want to dig more into this, Ian's got a whole series in our podcast back in the day, last year sometime. So you can go back and just listen until your lifestyle heart is content. But one of the things that I bring up often, Ian, after we talk about and honor people to say, yep, you're called to business, you're called to education, you're called to government. They love that, right? Because now they've been elevated. The next thing I would say to them when they grasp it is say, yeah, and just like you expect your pastor to hear from God on Sunday, you should hear every day for your calling. That's when they go, oh, all right then. And so, because there is an obligation, if God told you to do it, you don't say goodbye to him and see you in heaven. There is, yes, the calling, but then what are the steps to get there? So there's a lifestyle of what we would say, hear God and obey. Like, you live a lifestyle of hearing from God. Because if there's a wonderful counselor, and there is, it would be wise to listen to him. Right? Yeah. So I just want to add that, because I think it's important in this dialogue.
Yeah, and I think for me, again, I had a ha-ha moment. I'd been full-time in missions ministry for decades, and sometimes your resources is random. People support you, don't support you, choose to support you, don't support you, etc. And I realized I did have a calling for that at that season of my life, and I realized I needed to somehow try and create different resource from just business people supporting me, churches supporting me, friends supporting me, because that was sometimes a little tenuous. And as I'm praying to the Lord, I felt the Lord say to me, Ian, you have entrepreneurial gifts. I says, do I? So he says, well, just look at what you've done in ministry. Look at what you've done in terms of how you've led churches, missions organizations, whatever. It's very on. So I don't know why you don't apply those entrepreneurial gifts to you and to your family. And so I'm kind of like shocked, because again, I'm brought up in a season where if you were serving the Lord, which meant you pastor or missionary, then you didn't engage with that filthy lucre of the world, because that could trap you and drag you into a pit, right? But it's Jesus talking to me, right? It's Jesus talking to me. And so my wife and I, we just started on a process of trying to create cash generating assets that would actually support us in what we were doing. And we initially, because our mind was not fully renewed, we thought, oh, this resource is helping us to do the ministry, right? That's how we thought. But then we realized, no, that is the ministry too.
Yeah.
that business that you've started, that is the ministry too. It's not an either or, it's combined. And so we found ourselves becoming much more holistic in a kingdomized lifestyle. And it's been beautiful, I have to admit.
Excellent. And that is both a great story that fits with lifestyle and a great segue into our third point for today. So we've talked about calling. There are all the callings of God said it are sacred. The life that comes with the character and life and understanding of who God is, and he has some things to say. And we're going to follow him. And then the last piece that we're going to talk about today has to do with your community impact. That there's something comes, that there's an internal culture that God gets in you, that kingdom gets in you, but then it should come out in different places. And we're going to say that there's a reason you're in your city. There's a reason you're in your community, and that God is looking for you to do something there as well. It could be broader than that. It could include your industry. It could include your nation. Let's just see if we can wrap it around our city first. And so, I'm going to throw this quote by Abraham Kuyper that I love, and I know I've shared it a couple times in some of our different podcasts. But Abraham Kuyper, Dutch historian, theologian, pastor, eventually became the prime minister of the Netherlands. He said this: He said, there's not a square inch in the whole domain of our human existence over which Christ, the sovereign over all, does not cry, mine. That he does not cry mine. And so when I hear that, I mean, every time I say it, it wells up in me and go, yes, God wants it all. He wants the poor, he wants the rich, he wants the dark places, he wants the light places, he wants salt and light everywhere. And to me, that's very, very inspiring. That he's already there saying, this is mine, waiting for some of his people to come and bring the authority of the kingdom that he said that we had. And so that's what we're talking about when we say, let's partner with Jesus on his mission for the mine of our communities, right?
Yeah, and Brian, most of us didn't land at this spot, quickly. I often say that it really took me 35 years to get to this spot. So I'm patient with people, and of course I'm now consulting and working with various organizations globally, businesses, NGOs, and wherever. And there's a group that I work with in Hungary called the Hungarian Gypsy Mission International, an amazing business / NGO. I mean, they serve 6,500 Meals on Wheels a day to people in Hungary. They make 3,500 home care visits a day. They have 17 regional offices, 1,300 staff. Like it's a significant setup, and they absolutely understand that what they do is a calling. But I had to move them from seeing their calling as just, well, they would say, we make money from our business to plant churches. That's what we do. We make money from our business, and they get paid by the government to do all those Meals on Wheels stuff and etc. And so I've had to slowly move them over a 3-year period. Go, guys, it's all the kingdom, and for them is a subculture group, right? So the Roma, the Gypsies, they would see a church plant. It's Sunday afternoon, it's 2:00, it's you scream at Jesus for 60 minutes, that's called worship, and then the pastor screams at you for 60 minutes, that's called preaching, and then the last 60 minutes we cast out demons, and it really doesn't matter if you don't have any.
And then you scream at the devil.
You scream at the devil, right? Absolutely. And so I said, that is really not having a kingdom impact. It's all about a 3-hour gathering once a week. Now we obviously believe in gatherings, but when we think of kingdomization, it's got to be more than that. And so I moved them to thinking, having a kingdom framework. So now when they plant a community of faith, they're looking how to bless the community. And so that whole Roma people, they have difficulty in thinking forward, right? And so normally they cook on wood burning stoves, and so we encourage them, buy all your wood in the winter. It's dry, you get more of it because they buy it by the weight. They normally don't do any of that. They wait until it's November, it's wet. They pay for the wood, it's heavy, but they actually got less wood, whatever. So by the time it comes to February, they're out of wood and they're out of money, right? And so I said, what a great idea if we started creating community hubs, whereby in those 17 regional places we created a kitchen, we put a cooker, we had a washing machine, we had a dryer, we had tables and chairs, and when the families run out of wood, now they can't cook, now they can't keep warm, they can come to the community center and they can cook a meal on our cooker, they can wash their clothes in our washing machine. And so when they started doing this, like, the communities were shocked. They go, oh, we don't belong to the church. Yeah, not yet.
Yeah.
Not yet. We believe you need to taste and see that the Lord is good. And this kindness being expressed to you now is a is God's heart for you, that he loves you, he loves your family, and has a plan and a purpose for you. And this is just for you to know we are not just a singing, clapping group that meet once a week. We actually love our community. We love our village, and we are here to be conduits of God's blessing to you. That whole shift has been absolutely mammoth. I mean, we've started 28 of these groups in the last 24 months, and they actually believe they can take that 28 to 170 groups in the next 36 months. So it's just fantastic when people actually get the heart of what it means to kingdomize. It's just fantastic. Fantastic.
Yeah, you have so many stories, Ian, of people that you've influenced, but that's probably up there for me as one of my favorites of how you've walked them through cultural discussions, importance of real life importance, but then ministry importance and community, and what's an ongoing thing. Clearly, they've caught it, and they want to see that spread all over Hungary and Europe. So, really, really amazing. Well, Ian, we are out of time, my friend. This has been amazing. We are out of time. That's quick, but just an introduction. As I said, it's just an introduction to this series we're going to do. We don't know what it's all going to entail, and so we would love you. Maybe just let us know what do you want us to talk about kingdomizing. We're going to talk about business. We're going to talk about different areas of the world. But why don't you tell us what you want us to kingdomize? Is it your life? Is it your marriage? Is it your family? Is it government? A lot of talk about government these days. What does that mean in the whole thing? So let us know. We'd love to hear back from you, and just maybe add some things that you want to do. But last thoughts to wrap up, Ian. What do you want to say to wrap up?
Guys, it's been great. Thank you for checking in today. Thanks for joining us. We do this for you, right? We really do it for you, and so we're really pleased that you've come alongside and joined and clicked in. And look, if you've loved what you've heard today, please share it with your friends. If you've not yet subscribed, we release a podcast every single Monday, and so if you go to any of your podcast channels, whether it's YouTube or Spotify, we got 70 or 80 podcasts there now, which I think you'll find encouraging and helpful. And so I want to thank you for joining us. We want to get the message out. Our heart is to kingdomize the planet. Let Jesus come with his love, with his kingdom, with his goodness, with his mercy. And we believe that you are to be a part of that. And so keep connected. We want to be a blessing to you. Let us know how we can help you. Be blessed as you go kingdomizing your world this week.
Thanks for joining us today on Kingdomize the podcast. Let's keep the discussion going throughout the week on our socials or on our website, kingdomizeglobal.com. Contact us today to see how we can walk together to see more of God's kingdom in your city as it is in heaven.